JuJutsu Kaisen Shibuya Incident arc is almost unbelievable. It's 15 episodes of back-to-back action, incredible animation and fight choreography, and many dramatic character moments. You'd be hard-pressed to find a modern shonen anime arc with this much cathartic and explosive action that isn't some sort of tournament arc. That being said, not all the fights in the Shibuya Incident are made equal. While almost all the fights have great animation, there's a noticeable difference in direction, atmosphere, editing, and sound design between all the major fights in Season 2. So in this video, I want to sequentially break down everything that makes my favorite fight in the series so good. One of my favorite things about this fight is just how quickly and intensely it begins. It's surprisingly straight to the point, and in just one line we know why Choso is targeting Itadori.
Yuji Itadori, my brother's killer.
I love how Itadori doesn't even get to land before Choso attacks. This is where I've got to start talking about the animation and the sound design. They really help sell just how powerful Choso's piercing blood attack is. The little ball of blood forms together extremely rapidly, and once it's fully formed, it violently shakes and glows. In just a few seconds of animation, it communicates very effectively how Choso's technique works. And then we get this cool perspective shot of his hands as the camera zooms out. Another quick cut of blood distorting, and then...
With convergence is then released through a single point. The initial speed of this blood, enhanced with cursed energy, well exceeds the speed of sound when released.
The movement of the camera and the quick cuts between Choso's blood arrow really amplifies the speed of his attack, but also, pay close attention to the sound design here. It's amazing. The high-pitched sound of a technique sells the feeling of intense fluid pressure, like when you let out all the air in a balloon or step on a hose. This opening sequence represents pretty much everything great about this fight from a directing perspective. In just 20 seconds, there's a clear communication of Choso's technique, his motivations, and what makes him so dangerous. So now we, the audience, know that this isn't just some high-pressure liquid. Choso's blood technique is a bloody buzzsaw. Look at how violently the blood blasts out. Even Choso himself is blown back by the attack. Then there's this awesome POV shot we get of Choso putting us in his shoes. This combined with the far more intense sound effect makes you almost feel the pressure of the piercing blood. I also love how the environment is affected throughout the fight. Like with the signpost I mentioned, the environment getting thrashed like this really does wonders in making the fight feel visceral and real. And I think its smaller scale with everyday objects that we see getting cut in half makes it feel far more interesting than fights where giant buildings get blown to bits. Speaking of the environment, this fight also benefits from having a really unique setting. This hallway-like subway station with all these harsh neon lights allows some extremely exceptional lighting. It keeps the minor splices of dialogue in between the entire fight just as visually engaging as the fight itself. What follows after a bit of banter between the two is this awesome sequence of Choso using his blood manipulation in different ways to gain an upper hand in the fight. We know that in a close hand-to-hand combat, Yuji would easily have an advantage, but Choso's piercing blood basically allows him to win if he's given enough distance. So seeing the fight end up right back to where it started in this scene is suspenseful and intense. Mekamaru eventually calls Yuji and explains to him how Choso's powers work, and this leads to one of my favorite moments in the entire fight. The scene uses the signboards on the wall to act as a visualization of Choso's technique. I just think this is really clever. It keeps the tone of the scene consistent while also allowing for necessary exposition. The directing in this fight is just so clever and intentional. Not a single movement feels poorly choreographed or overly animated. Some of the fights in the Shibuya Incident suffer from what I like to call sakuga overload. Basically, when a scene is very fluidly animated but does a poor job of communicating the intended actions and emotions of the animation. The fight leads to the restrooms, and this is where I think the animation really starts to shine. First of all, the lighting and atmosphere is just absolutely gorgeous. The little particle effects of the sprinkled water, the same neon lights now illuminating Choso and Yuji in different colors. Now that Yuji has the upper hand in the fight, it goes from a really deadly game of chicken to this awesome martial arts standoff. Once again, the animation and choreography is so clear and expressive that even if you don't know these characters, you can probably guess their combat experience just from watching. Yuji begins to dominate the fight, combining hits, bites, he even headbutts him. He kicks Choso in the face. This is the sort of stuff I love to see in action scenes, where the character's battle is influenced by their personality, and you can gain insight to how the characters think just from their movement. Choso isn't exactly a master strategist, but we know that he can hold his own even when disadvantaged. This is why the end of a fight also doesn't feel out of place or undeserved. It's established that Choso is more likely to win in this scene right here. The continuing hand-to-hand combat is just so engaging and satisfying to watch. The use of the environment, like Yuji throwing the drain cover, and him using a bathroom stall to swing and land a kick, the animators really went out of their way to make the environment essential in the fight. Comparing this to other anime fight scenes, and hell, even some of the other fights in JJK, sometimes it feels like the setting of the fight is an afterthought. I'm not saying I want some Kingsman shit or whatever, it's just nice to see the locations not reduced to nothing but an empty fighting playground. There's more really well choreographed hand-to-hand combat, and it seems that Yuji is finally about to win. Except, he doesn't. It's not exactly surprising, but it does catch you a little bit off guard because everything in the direction misleads you into thinking that Yuji might actually win. The music, the dialogue, everything lies to you, making you think that he stands a chance. But in typical JJK fashion, we're reminded that this world doesn't operate on shonen hero logic, and our main character is not invincible. And just when it seems like all hope is lost, I know I've been obsessing over the visuals a lot, but the directing of this episode is just so good. The single shot of Choso appearing in his own eye does so much visual communication. Now, I'm gonna be a bit honest, I am not caught up with the manga, so I have no idea why any of this happened or what any of it means, but I love this VHS filter over the animation that's layered as Choso's fake memories play out, and I love how, in keeping with using the environment to do cool things with the visuals, Choso literally shatters those memories by smashing the screen. And that brings us to the conclusion of what I would call JuJutsu Kaisen's greatest fight. There's a lot more I did want to bring up, especially in comparison with other JJK fights, but I ultimately decided it would be best to keep the focus primarily on what I liked about this episode's battle in particular. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the video. If you like content like this, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, farewell and goodbye.